So this shiur, first of all, is dedicated to the success of our dear friend Rachel Chaya Batzara, codename Karen. For her success and her well-being, and all her enemies should get discouraged. Amen. I want to hear a stronger amen, please.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, that's much better. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit today about the food products regarding Pesach, always questions and so on and so forth. So, the food industry is an extremely sophisticated industry that you really need to have hands-on all the time to know what's going on and to have a vast knowledge of products and procedures and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, and I'm saying that unfortunately straight out, most rabbis don't have that knowledge. So that's why for rabbis as well, they really need to, if you're a rabbi of a community, you really need to read those guidelines of different kashrut organizations on regular basis. Otherwise, it's going to be outdated. It's amazing. So especially nowadays, and many things that look to us as natural, innocent, and natural, that's the code is natural. Many times they go through a process in industry, a process of that could create problems, A, with kashrut, and they create problems for Pesach as well. So that's why it's very important that we'll pay attention that all those products that we are using will have the proper kashrut symbol throughout the year and for Passover as well. Many kashrut organizations, that today is a free market, many kashrut organizations today, not many, but there are some out there, they're just based, they're not as strict as the big ones, the OU, the Star K, the Chav K, and so on and so forth, CRC and on. These are people that have on board scientists and people that are great halachic minds that really, keep on things. And some of them just give to the Echsherim just because it looks kosher and so on without actually having a mashgiach on hand. Now I'm going to give you like 3 examples, for example, the things that could be, innocent in terms of, the looks, but it's not necessarily so, and then we get into the Pesach thing. For example, you take an apple, right? You take an apple, if you take it from if you have a tree that grows in your backyard, you take an apple, it would last you no more than like a week or so. After that, it goes bad. However, if you go to the supermarket and you buy an apple, it could last you a few weeks, if not more. And the question is, of course, how is it possible? So when they pick the apples in the factories, when they go into the processing plants, they take the natural coating, it's like oil, whatever it is, on the apple itself, its natural protection, and they coat it with a chemical lining on it. There's a natural lining on the apple, and then there's the chemical lining. Of course, the apples that, if you're going to go, let's say, upstate New York and pick the apples, sometimes you feel a little funny in your teeth. That's not from the apple, that's from the chemicals that they spray on. But these apples are not just like the apple you buy in a supermarket. Many times in a supermarket, you feel there's like a little oily coating on it. So they after they coat it in that coating, they put it into an oven that has 35 degrees Celsius, which heats up, and by doing so, it increases the shelf life of the apple itself. Of course, I have to say that coating has no problem in terms of Passover, but just to give you an example of how something that is so natural and innocent is processed. And so is today many of the things, whether it's tomatoes and so on and so forth. Let's say, for example, you're making a jelly at home. Whatever jelly you would make, strawberry jelly, apple, whatever jelly you make at home, every time you make it, the color is going to be different. The color is going to be different, the texture is going to be different, and together with the taste is going to be different. You can't produce them exactly the same thing. However, if you're going to go buy, let's say, strawberry jelly of some brand, you are guaranteed that it's always going to look the same, taste the same, and the same texture is going to be there. Of course, how is it possible? So it's very simple. In the jelly that you buy, besides the fruit, there is food coloring, and the texture and the flavor is the same because they put certain, what they put inside?
Pectin.
Preservatives?
No, preservative comes later on. What they put in?
Pectin.
That's right. They put all kind of solutions inside that would create flavor and mask everything else and uniform it, right? Which is a flavor additives that they put to it. And they put stabilizer in it. Now, of course, there's going to be a problem. You need to make sure. Now you understand why jelly, for example, needs to have a kosher supervision. Some of the color additives that they put in doesn't come from kosher sources. Comes from beetles, comes from many other things. Certain of the stabilizers have problems in terms of the flavor. And the flavor itself, it could come from grapes. And grapes is, grape juice is very good basis for many of those flavors. So now you have a problem of like dealing with yayin nesach. And all the same thing, for example, if you're going to make, let's say you buy pickles, right? If you buy pickles, if you ever made pickles at home, and you should make pickles at home, because it is nothing like you taste in the store, you have no idea, for example, in sauerkraut, how many different byproducts they put inside. It's ridiculous. If you ever tasted, you made, my son, God bless him, I love him, he makes all this crazy stuff. He likes to make those things. He made sauerkraut at home. Let me tell you, you eat this, you can't eat anything else that was made in the store. I get very sensitive to additives like this. And then my mouth starts to swell, inside. I can't take it. So you take the pickles from the store. Right? If you make pickles at home, of course, the pickles that you come up usually are a little lighter in color. Sam, can you do me a favor? Can you switch seats or sit over there? Because it's really annoying. Sit over there.
Okay.
Your fault. So the color is very, very light, and sometimes many times the acidity and the flavor of the thing is not the same. Sometimes it's more acidic, sometimes it's less acidic. However, if you're going to take a pickles from a can, it's always going to be the same color and the same pH, the same acidity. It's always going. Why? Because they add color to it and they add other stuff to it to stabilize it in a certain thing. So now you should know that any solution that has to do with flavor, any flavor additives that they put in, usually has over 30 different ingredients in it that sometimes could actually have chametz, or to Ashkenazim kitniyot. Kitniyot are legumes. So for Ashkenazim is the problem. Sometimes they have chametz inside. The same thing regarding food coloring. Food coloring could have sometimes, not always, but sometimes could have food coloring that has chametz in it. If you, for example, make tomato sauce at home, the color is going to be completely different than if you buy tomato sauce from the store. So, like for example, stabilizers that they put in many times are added with starches in it. And sometimes those starches are made out of wheat. Starch could be made from wheat, could be made from potatoes, and usually is made from corn. Those three things. Now, if it says starches in it, or added starch, you don't know what it is. You have no idea what it is. And when the chemist checks the product, something like this, he doesn't know if that's if that starch comes from chametz, or that starch comes from corn, or that starch comes from potato. Then starch is starch. When we see the molecule of starch, therefore, for us, every time we see starch on the ingredient, we have to regard to it as chametz. Every time we see starch, that's what it is for us, or at least safek chametz, which you got to be very careful with. Okay, anything of that, because don't forget, not only it's isur achila, it's also isur anah. So therefore, all types of chametz, unless it says tapioca starch or potato starch right on it, every starch for you is chametz. Don't assume all of a sudden that you are the grand alchemist, and you can tell, oh, it's starch. Oh, starch is okay. It's not a problem. There are a lot of problems in it. Everybody takes the liberty to their hands for comfort, and then they lose everything that they had for Olam Haba. They lose it up right away. For example, if you're going to talk about, soup powders, those bouillons that they make from soup, or soups that they make many times for, instant soups, they have about 80% starch. Now, they don't necessarily need to say starch from this or starch from that. They just say starch. 80%. So you eat it, you might be eating mamash chametz. Spread chocolate, the different types of spreads. Now, different, they have like Nutella, the Israeli chocolate spread, even hummus that you buy in the store, right, and so on and so forth, has about 20% starch in it to stabilize it and to make it, the texture that you need. So they put starch in. Unless it says Kosher LePesach, you regard to it as not Kosher LePesach. So, Maya, what's in hummus? Well, you're right. When you make hummus at home, and that's very easy. You have tahina, which, of course, for Ashkenazi you can eat, right? Because it's seeds, but still they call it legumes. I don't know why. Don't ask me questions. Now, they have tahina, you have chickpeas, you have garlic, and you have lemon and water. I'm sorry. Okay, that's it. That's the whole hummus, right? But if you're going to take hummus from the store, there's a whole list of things there that I think you need to get like a master's in biology or chemistry to figure out what in the world those things are. Yeah. No, I have more water. Thank you. The same thing, something that it's called glucose, right? Glucose usually makes things sweet. That's made most of the time from legumes. So for Ashkenazim, it's going to be a problem to consume that. You got to be very, very careful. Or there is something that's called dextrose that's also made out of starches. Again, which starch you don't know, but so therefore you can have it. You got to look, and these are the things you find in almost everything. What I'm trying to tell you is, yes, if Yossi were here, would agree with me. Don't buy ready-made stuff. Don't be so lazy. Get off whatever pedestal you're standing on, right? And then you want hummus, go make it at home. So you're going to make it 3, 4, 5 times. It's not going to come out good. Later on, you're going to learn the ratios. You can come up with great hummus. You don't need to buy the stuff. It would not last you long. That's good. It means it's good. If it lasts you take hummus, you live in the refrigerator, you come 6 months later, you open it up, it's still good. I mean, they probably could outlast a nuclear war. It's still going to be good. Terrific. I think if you're going to put hummus in a time capsule, you're going to come up to 50 years later, take it out. Okay, where's the pita? Let's get the pita. And the same thing with breads. Breads that stay fresh for a long period of time means there's a ton of additives on it. That goes into your body. I'm not talking about nutrition and so on and so forth. I'm talking about problems with chametz. All these additives you got to watch out for. Everybody likes to take corners because, eat, food. Just give me a break, for crying out loud. Just take it easy. Now, let's say, for example, we'll talk about different produce now, which must have kashrut lePesach, and some of them will be quite of a surprise to you. Now, if we have fresh meat or fish and so on and so forth, they don't need kashrut supervision to them. Why? Because they don't go through any process or manufacturing process. It's just, you take a fish, they give it like this. However, frozen fish, many people buy this tilapias, whatever. I don't know why people will eat tilapia. It's like the recycling fish of the lakes. Terrible fish to eat. Do not stay away from tilapias. Right? Processed fish or frozen meat. Many times you have frozen meat. You say, what do you mean I have frozen meat? Well, meat that you get from Uruguay and stuff like this, how do you think it comes? Fresh, it's going to go bad. It's frozen and then defrosted again. Now, what's the problem with frozen fish or frozen meat that it's like this? Well, first of all, you need to have kosher lePesach. Why would I need kosher lePesach? It's very simple. Today, that frozen meat and frozen fish has about minimum of 10% water in it. Yeah, you heard me right, water in it. Of course, the question is, How is the water get saturated or absorbed into the meat? That's very simple. They inject inside the meat phosphates, and those phosphates really help the water absorb into the muscle, which is the meat that we're eating. And sometimes when they inject so much water, and this was a big problem years ago, they injected so much water until there was no nutritional value in the meat because it was all water that they had there. And there is by the way, and that's why they have like when they write American Angus meat and so on and so forth. One of the things is the amount of water in it. So you put the phosphates inside of that. Now that's why when you put a lot of water on it, there's not a lot of protein inside, and that's going to be a problem with different regulations. So what did they add inside the meat? What did they inject inside the meat? Well, they inject soy protein inside of that, or they inject starch. Again, starch could be from chametz. For Ashkenazim, soy. First of all, I don't know why you eat meat like that, but soy like this is a problem for Ashkenazim. But for Sfaradim as well, if it's made that they inject inside is starch, is going to be a problem. And the same thing goes to chopped meat as well, which is processed meat, or hot dogs, or sardine cans, or any kind of tuna cans. It has to say Kosher LePesach on it. I love fish. It's probably the only live, protein that I eat. If it doesn't have Kosher LePesach, I don't eat it. I mean, it's very simple. It's processed. Processed needs Kosher LePesach. Cheeses also. Cheeses must have kashrut lepesach. Don't tell me, why are you talking about what's cheese? Milk. No, but in today's process, when they manufacture it, what causes the process, the starter for the meat or the rennet for the meat, is they in order to increase the whatever it is, bacteria inside, whatever it is, they add inside stuff that comes from straightforward chametz. Those additives that starts the starters that start the cheeses, the curdling process of the cheese, comes from chametz gamur, because it's very sour. Whatever it does there, it does a reaction. It's chametz gamur, therefore it has to have it. You'll find it many times in more vegan cheeses that is made out of soy, and so to give it a certain texture, there is chametz inside. Now, if you don't know, this doesn't say kasher lepesach, you cannot have it. Sauces, all kind of sauce, spreads, and spices must say kasher lepesach. Or it's from a reliable hechsher that tells you, okay, that you don't need to, we know it's kasher lepesach. The problem with spices, many times in those plants, they do process as well in the packaging and so on and so forth. They do process chametz, wheat, oats, barley, stuff like that. You need to make sure it's not like this. Or they would add in fillers. So, like, for example, Israelis like zatar. Zatar is a mixture of cerium, oregano, thyme, and some other stuff crushed together, and so on and so forth, right? However, when you buy the mixture already made, not the dry hyssop, if you look at the ingredients, you should really stay away from that. Why? There's all kind of like citric acids, there's wheat inside of it, there's mamash chametz inside. Why do they add wheat and flour inside? For volume and weight. Right? So you don't get zatar, so you gotta be careful. I love zatar, but in Pesach I cannot have it. You can't have zatar. They used to bring dry hyssop, but they don't bring it anymore. So now the zatar is not kasher lepesach. You're going to say, what? Zatar is zatar. No, it's not. Read the ingredients inside. So that's the problem with that. Any kind of sauces, or like, for example, they have, the Israelis love date spreads, like a date spread like this. There's a problem with that as well. Or ketchup, right? Ketchup, chocolate, and different jellies, and so also have starches inside to stabilize it. They put starches and therefore they must be kasher lepesach. You can't just assume it's not kasher lepesach. Go to a store. Okay, so you buy a little bit more expensive. Don't buy so much, so you won't be crazy. Buy the whatever you need. Buy a little bit that you need, and if you need more, go to the store replenish. But don't buy a thing. Let's say paprika like this big, and then we have a problem. Go buy a little bit, and if you need more, go the next day to the store and buy it. It's not the end of the world. So when you buy it small, also, first of all, it doesn't go to waste, and B, you don't feel the pain so much of how much does it cost. There's a big difference between something costing you $2 and $8, but you don't need that. So we have to act b'chokhmah. Same thing regarding oil. Shemen, the oil that is made out of soy oil or canola oil, very common. And now for that, there's a lot of things going on. They need a special kashrut for Pesach. Why is that? Because many times, not always, but many times in the process, the manufacturing process of the oil itself, they also mix sometimes different types of grain that are chametz for Pesach. So it has to be kasher lePesach. Olive oil, for example, is not a problem. Only in a condition that is cold pressed virgin olive oil from a reliable place. But if it just says olive oil or whatever it is, it doesn't say 100% cold pressed whatever, you can rely on it because many times they mix it with other types of oil that, first of all, for Ashkenazim would be a problem because it comes from kitniyot. They will put canola oil, they'll put other kind of oil inside of it because olive oil by itself is very expensive. So you can't just rely, it says olive oil, olive oil, it says Shulchan Aruch. No, we are talking about cold pressed virgin olive oil. Only then you can have it without a hechsher from a place that does have a standard. That you would not, otherwise you can't do it. So I don't care what your mommy says, but if my mommy doesn't like it, then doesn't like it. She doesn't have to share the same flat with you in Olam Haba, in Gan Eden, right? She can go whatever, you know what it is. It is not all about food, Rabotai. The food here on the Chag is a mitzvah. It's not a Pompeii feast. It's not a Roman feast. It's a mitzvah. And therefore, we need to be makpid the mitzvah, just like any other mitzvah. I mean, would a person do a mitzvah, let's say, for example, to make a bracha on lulav gazul, on the stolen lulav? Absolutely not. Why would you will be so weary about, or so like funky about when it comes to Pesach? I forgot. You can't eat the lulav. If you could have ate the lulav, who knows what we will have? Okay, so guess what? We have a problem. We have to understand that, and the only way to overcome these things is to have knowledge. Now let's talk about cleaning detergents to the house. So therefore, Chazal tells us that everything that is pasul me'achilat kelev, in other words, that it's so bad that even a dog would not eat it. Of course, if a man eats it, it's lo pasul le'achilat kelev. Example, giving let's say whiskey. Dog does not drink whiskey. Men do. So we're not talking about this. Something that it's so bad, man doesn't drink it. Even more so, a dog would not drink it, right? So anything that it's so bad is not considered to be ma'achal edible. And therefore, if it's not edible, does not need to have a hechsher lePesach. That's why cleaning detergents do not need to be kosher lePesach. So if you have Dawn, you can use Dawn. It doesn't have to be Dawn kosher lePesach. Or you have Ajax, that could be Ajax, whatever brand that is. If you want to support your local Jewish store, okay, fine, I hear you, or manufacturer, I hear you, fine. But otherwise they don't, yeah.
How come you see sometimes disposable table covers, they have a hashgacha on it?
Oh, well, we'll get to this slowly. Slowly. Let's say you have animals. And I'm not talking about kids or yourself, I'm talking about real pets and so on and so forth. If it's something that a human would not eat, and there's no concern that a human would mix that into his own food, let's say, for example, I don't know, nobody will take fish food and mix it up and make some kind of like a dip with it. Yeah, we agree with that, right? Because it's mouze, so therefore it's not. Anything like that it's repulsing, or a man would not consume it, and nor I will come to mistake it does not need hechsher for Pesach. And the same thing regarding specialty for bird food. Of course, unless it is bird food that is put together, in such a way that there is actual chametz there with, glued together, there will be a thing. Dog food could be eaten by humans. Right? You have those cans, they're pretty good. So in Israel, you could get them with hechsher lePesach. I don't know about here in America. My advice to you, don't have dogs. You want something to cuddle with? Get a wife, get a husband, get a child. Don't get dogs. You don't get dogs to cuddle with them, yeah? That's kind of sick. You have nothing to do, I don't know, go volunteer in Salvation Army. I don't know, do something. Don't go animals, it looks stupid. But never mind, if you have it, you have to have kosher. Now, regarding dog food, that needs to be kosher altogether with a hechsher, because as I explained to you many times, they mix inside milk and meat together, and therefore it's a suana. So you need to make sure that your dog food has a kosher supervision as well. Now, regarding toothpaste, is a little bit tricky. Everybody gets bent out of shape. We talk about toothpaste. Appropriate to begin with, it is appropriate to buy toothpaste that could be used in Pesach. Doesn't dafka have to be necessarily a Jewish brand toothpaste, but it could be a toothpaste that you use throughout the year. But you need to make sure that that is a kosher toothpaste because of the additives of starches and so on and so forth in it. Now, regarding kashrut, I don't care what this one brand, that brand, there's glycerin inside, and every time there's glycerin inside, I don't care if you tell me it's from an animal, it's from this, glycerin is out. Okay, that's it. I don't believe some manufacturer that tells me, oh yes, 100% from that. It's a long story. Stay away from toothpastes. You can go today, there's a list for every single product out there. See which brand, let's say for example you like, I don't know, Colgate over, I don't know, whatever there is out there.
Crest.
If it's, Crest, whatever, it's on the list, you can use it. Look into this list. The OU has the list, the Star K has the list, the CRC has the list, the Jersey Shore has the list. Look at all these things and go and don't pick up the one you like. But make sure it's kosher for Pesach. Again, there are starches there that sometimes could come, or many times comes from chametz. And there is a problem because you put it in your mouth and it tastes good. It is suwana that you can do. Now, let's talk about makeup. Any of you guys who put makeup, anybody puts makeup here? All right, I'll beat you up if you do. If you put makeup, lipstick, or lip balm and so on and so forth. So regular makeup does not need kashrut lepesach. Nobody needs this makeup. It's okay to use. Creams, different creams. Unless it says for sure, let's say oatmeal cream or something like that. Just regular cream does not need kashrut for Pesach, right? However, the Ashkenazim need to be machmir because sometimes there is the basis for that comes from Legumes, so therefore you need to be machmir on that for Ashkenazim. Lipstick and lip balm. If there's no flavor to them, they don't need kashrut for Pesach. And if there are flavors, you must have a separated kashrut for Pesach. Many times they have glycerin. Certain mouthwashes and so on and so forth have glycerin inside of them. So you got to be careful with that throughout the year. So they don't all have hechsher. Let's say you have dental floss or special toothpicks. They have flavor, must have a kashrut for Pesach. If there's no flavor, they don't need kashrut for Pesach. So if you have a mint flavor dental floss, needs to be kashrut for Pesach. Why? Because the flavor is added to it with a little bit of starch and flavor. You don't know which starch is it from. Needs to have kashrut for Pesach. So far, Rabotai, questions?
We don't have a lot to do laundry on Chol Hamoed anyway, right?
No, you don't.
So then what's the big deal of having it, just not to have the detergent?
Detergent, you wash dishes, don't you?
No, I mean the
Do you wash?
laundry detergent.
When I say detergents, that includes washing dishes, washing the floor, and so on and so on. All detergents, yeah. Okay. I mean, you're allowed to wash during Chol Hamoed if, for example, you don't have any more kitchen towels. So if you don't have kitchen towels, you're allowed to wash kitchen towels.
And kids' clothes, right?
What?
And little kids' clothes.
If you ran out of their diapers.
Just diapers.
Let's say you have those cloth diapers. Let's say your wife is a hippie. She puts cloth diapers. That you're allowed to wash. But if your kids have clothes, there's no reason for you to wash it. Okay? Baruch Hashem, thank God, we have more clothes than we actually need. So I'm sure your kids had each one, they can wear up the whole entire week, every day, a new outfit, and it's still going to have plenty in the closet. So there's no need to do laundry in that way. Okay? Any other questions for now? Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, I don't know if I want to do it today, I want to do this tomorrow because I wanted to talk about. Okay, I'll leave this for now. I don't know how we're doing. We'll leave this tomorrow because tomorrow I want to talk about a little bit about dry fruit. So we'll do today, as we said before. We said about olive oil. We mentioned olive oil. Huh? No, we spoke about olive oil. Let's talk about instant coffee. Yeah. Instant coffee does not need kashrut for Pesach, but if there are flavors like vanilla, mocha, almond, whatever it is that you guys, I don't know why anybody would drink that. That needs kashrut as well.
So what about elite Turkish?
Elite Turkish does not need the hechsher.
Even with hell?
Hell for Ashkenazim. Hell is not, you should say cardamom, because people then would say, oh, the rabbi is cursing Ashkenazim. I'm not. Hell, in Arabic, hell is cardamom. So the Ashkenazim don't have anything that goes into a pod. Cardamom comes in pods. So therefore they call it legumes. Let it be, I don't care what it is. I'm not getting into...
We can use it.
Huh?
But we can use it?
You could use it. Let's say you have in dry fruit. No, not dry fruit, nuts. So everything that is not roasted, you're allowed to have in Pesach. So if you buy fresh almonds, you're allowed to have it for Pesach. It doesn't need to have a hechsher. Anything that is roasted and it's processed must have a kosher for Pesach. Now, sometimes on certain walnuts and so on and so forth, they spray it with something that is kind of antioxidant, something like that. So the people don't want it to smell and so forth, or them to turn black, or so therefore they spray it in anything like this. If it's closed and it says kosher lePesach, it's fine. If it's processed without kosher lePesach, you cannot use it. If it's just raw, you go to the Patel Brothers, whatever, you buy raw almonds or raw stuff, raw cashews, you could use that, you can roast it, and that's not a problem. Yeah.
Does that include shelled and unshelled?
If it's processed or not processed. Yeah. If you buy, for example, roasted peanuts that are shelled, I don't know, whatever, yes, you need to have a hechsher. Anything that is processed needs a Pesach supervision to it. If it's in original form, does not, to most parts, yes. And as I said to you in the beginning, we spoke about apples. Apples, I just give you an example, something that is so-called natural, but it is processed. But apples don't need a hechsher, yes? I'm just saying. I deliberately leave this whole concept of dry fruit because there's really a lot to talk about. Anything that is with gas, like drinks, soft drinks and so on and so forth, needs to have kashrut for Pesach. Coca-Cola is usually kosher for Pesach and throughout the year and so on and so forth. Anything that is diet this or diet that needs to be kosher for Pesach because of that sugar stuff that they manufacture, that it comes sometimes from starch, or sugars that they break out. Yeah.
With salsa, it just says carbonated water as ingredients.
You need to make sure it's kosher for Pesach. Buy a Jewish brand. Your parents don't like it, too bad.
What's the possible problem with it?
In the process, whatever comes inside, where's the carbon monoxide come from? What they do there, like again, Coca-Cola all year long is kosher for Pesach. And in America, many times during Pesach, they have a special production for Pesach that it's made from sugar, not from corn. That's why Israeli Coca-Cola tastes different than American Coca-Cola. Israeli Coca-Cola is not made out of corn syrup, it's made out of sugar syrup. So it tastes different. So in America, during Pesach, they bring that. Whatever is going on there, I don't know what's going on there. Okay. But if it's diet, something that is diet, must have kosher lePesach. Because of that diet stuff that they put in, the sorbitol, whatever that they put inside of that.
Even the Coke diet?
Every diet. Now regarding rice, I don't know who checks, I don't know when they put it out. As I sent you today stuff, and it says there, white rice, and there's something the Sfardim don't want to hear. Oh, wow, gewalt, white rice, at the end of the world. White rice in America, most rice, not all, most white rice has additives to it. Different vitamins that they add to it. And sometimes there is starch on top of that. The white stuff that you see is not dust many times, it's starch that they add on. So you need to be careful what you're doing. So it's not a problem to go to the list that we have, kosher list of a reliable source, reliable hechsher. OU and the Star K give this year kitniyot hechsherim. They go to these places when they will give you specific. Don't go to some guy who puts a blog that he says, I heard from Rabbi so-and-so that these are kosher. With all due respect to all these great rabbis, they're not chemists and they're not aware of what's going on there. So it's a law by America, and I sent it to you, I put you on it. It's a law that it has to be added to it, to most of them. So you can buy the rice from Israel that says kosher lePesach. That means that rice is kosher lePesach. It means that there's no additives to it if it's white rice. However, you still need to check the rice 3 times before you use it. That's what it is. You don't want to check it 3 times? Not a problem. Don't eat rice. You want to eat your regular rice? You don't want to buy the kosher lePesach because you're too cheap? I mean, we're not talking about such a great thing. I mean, you think about the amount of meat that you would throw into the garbage. You'll see that you throw more dollars to the garbage than you spend on kosher lePesach rice. So don't be cheap and stupid. But however, let's say you are. You'll take your regular rice. You would need to rinse it very well with water before the Chag to make sure all the stuff goes out. Then dry it, then check it. If you're up to it, you have nothing else to do, go ahead and do it. There are many years that I don't feel like doing it, so I don't eat rice. I mean, listen, I'm not Chinese, I don't have to have rice. It became like the thing that Sfardim are very proud of. Oh, we have to have rice, we have to have rice. Give me a break. So you don't eat rice. I'm sure your mothers are very capable and creative to come up with something new that you don't have to eat because all it is, you eat all year long the same dish with rice. Rice, carrots, rice and raisins. It's enough to make something new. Right? Rice with raisins.
Sure.
Rice with saffron, rice with this. That stuff also needs extra. It's a little bit of a problem. Any kind of dry legumes, for those of us Sfaradim who eat legumes, beans, garbanzos, and stuff like that, when they dry, they don't go through any manufacturing process, so therefore you could use that, no problem whatsoever. However, legumes in a can, right, even though it's kosher, they need to have a kosher supervision. You cannot use them in Pesach because they go through a process. Now, in the process, in the factories, in the plants, you don't know what's going on in there. You don't know what's going inside of it. You can use it. But if you want to eat legumes, you want to eat some black beans, you make yourself black beans in Pesach. When it's dry, it's not a problem. However, you should know that even if it's come loose, you cannot use cracked wheat, or whole wheat, or barley, or burgul, or and so on and so forth. Because when you're going to cook them, some of them are already chametz already, because they might run it through a solution. And even if not, because how do I know they don't run into a solution? If you're going to take them and they're going to germinate, I mean it's good. The solution that they dip many of the stuff is to stop it from germination. So if you're going to take barley, and your barley at home does not germinate, means it was processed, so it's already chametz. However, when you're going to take that stuff and you're going to cook it, you're going to make chametz completely out of it, so don't use it. Even if you grew the barley in your backyard, you can't use it on Pesach. You're going to make chametz, so stay away. But, dry beans and stuff like this, not a problem whatsoever. Frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables, most of the time there's no chashash for Pesach. However, sometimes in artichokes or artichoke hearts, they put a certain stuff on it to prevent antioxidant, to prevent it from getting black. Because if you ever peeled artichokes, if you buy a fresh artichoke and you peel it, you peel the whole thing, you clean up the artichoke, it's very interesting, your fingers become black. There's like a certain dye in it or whatever it is that makes your finger black. You can tell right away in Israel if somebody was peeling artichoke because the fingertips will be black. So in order to prevent it, they put something which is very, very common. It is lemon salt, and that lemon salt is made most of the time from chametz. So like lemon, they call it citric acid. Mm-hmm. Citric acid is made from chametz, so that's a problem. So they added on to prevent it from turning black and so on. Black coffee, as we said before, cafe shachor, Israeli coffee, whatever you call this, or coffee beans don't need to have a kosher for Pesach. However, when the beans are whole. However, if they are flavored, you can buy a whole bean that it says like vanilla, or walnut, or hazelnut, or whatever it is. That needs to be kosher Pesach. You can use it even if it's a whole bean. But just regular ground coffee, not a problem. You can use it. That's no problem whatsoever. Something else that we need to go over is plates. What do you call this? Stuff like this. What do you call this?
Paper plates?
Paper plates. So on.
Disposable plates.
Yeah, they don't need a hechsher because there's no cover and coating on it. Anything that is made out of styrofoam also does not need a hechsher for that as well. You can use that; it's not a problem. In previous years, they used to use it. Certain things do have a hechsher; they need a hechsher, but most of the stuff today there's no coating on that, so therefore it's okay to use. So tomorrow I want to talk about, as I said to you, about dry fruit, and I want to talk a little bit about medicine and stuff like that. Any questions, Rabotai? Good.